Hello, everyone. We're going to get started as folks trickle in. My name is Chude-Sokei, and on behalf of Boston University and its African American Studies program, of which I'm honored to be the new director, I welcome you to this symposium on race, politics, and social media. I thank you for your presence, which I interpret, perhaps optimistically, as overall support for the kind of ideas, scholarship, and engagement that this program is committed to. This is particularly crucial as we at BU AFAM participate in the wider project of redefining African American and Black diaspora studies for our moment, and the deeper project of renewing race and knowledge in a time where racist cultural assaults and political rollbacks occur without even the cover of genteel hypocrisy. And that we're in a time when even knowledge itself is under assault that cannot be disputed. That so many of these rollbacks and assaults are staged and enabled by contemporary social media, and that our current administration was arguably made possible by social media, from Cambridge Analytica to Moscow, from the alt-right to a certain rogue tweeter-in-chief, well, that's precisely why we're here. That and the enormous transformations that have happened over the last generation or so as new technologies of communication have either revised or erased, occluded or empowered what some of us still perhaps nostalgically call the public sphere. This despite the increasingly uncertain nature of both a common public and a shared sphere of communication. If anything, social media represents and manifests those uncertainties just as it can politically exacerbate them. And for those of us who study race and engage racism, this sphere or arena has become far too central to ignore and far too rich with possibilities not to learn from. Because Blacks have also engaged social media technologies. They have done so in ways that, unbeknownst to many, have begun to chart pathways of political possibility in the wake of one of the most brutal historical stretches we have encountered in this country in terms of Black life and cultural and political advancement. Now, my interest in today's themes is because my own scholarly work has become increasingly focused on technology and its historical dependence on Black people, and of course, gender and sexuality. This symposium's pairing of race with social media shouldn't seem forced or awkward, since race and technology, racism and technology, have always been paired along the way with new developments. Technology, for example, has always been raced or racialized in how it's represented, and Blacks have been very much a part of its development as either unacknowledged participants or figured as necessary symbolic contrasts. As I've argued, race and technology actually co-evolve with each other from 19th century industrialization, which depended on colonialism and slavery, to robotics and cybernetics, which were generated explicitly in conversation with Jim Crow segregation and the legacy of African American free labor. From notions of creolization and hybridity in Latin America and the Caribbean, to theories of artificial intelligence that actually depend on those notions as models for human-machine mixture. Blacks who may have been marginalized in formal public spheres of political and social engagement have been present in the evolution of technology and have always appropriated new technologies in order to create alternate public spheres or new modes of technological interaction. There is, however, also the fact that new technologies seem often to teach us one thing, something particularly striking as we approach a seemingly inevitable political regime of artificial intelligence. They teach us how deeply embedded are our prejudices, biases, and hostilities, how in fact human and structural those prejudices and biases and hostilities are. For those of you not ensconced in the tech world, you can witness all of this in the recent public awareness of, say, sexist chatbots or racist algorithms that's out there in public conversation now, about the racism of facial recognition software in policing, about the biases of machine learning and artificial intelligence itself. And of course, the very texture of online life often seems to be one where racism, sexism, and religious intolerance seems the basic mode of interaction. This, in my thinking, is one of the things that we're learning from technology, how we humans have failed our own humanity. There is, of course, much humanity, classically and optimistically defined, out there, as we will see today, particularly in the context of Black resistance and engagement, and those who attempt to make good on the original promises of the public sphere, which are inclusion, amplification, and expansion. This latter, and some of the former, is what our guests today, and colleagues and audience, will elucidate over the next couple of hours. But before we begin, and before I get too deep back into my own work, let me formally thank those who have made this event possible. First, of course, is Boston University's African American Studies program, the George and Joyce Wine Fund, the Boston University Center for the Humanities, and the Women and Gender Studies program. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, our home team, our program administrator, Deidre James, and the student posse who are milling around out there, Lene Bogues, Donovan Young, Rachel Edwards, Ashley Griffin, and Miriam Marchetti. Thank you, thank you, thank you.